Greetings and salutations, everyone. And here comes the dog. Every time, man. I swear. You know, my dog, for those of you who've ever been curious and seen him in like every single video, he is a Great Pyrenees, and they are literally guard dogs. That's what they are bred and raised for. They are livestock guardians. They come from the Pyrenees Mountains in France, and the farmers use them to guard their livestock from wolves and any kind of predators. And that's very much ingrained in him, and since he really doesn't have livestock at this point in time, he will in the future, but he doesn't have livestock he's very protective. He's very alert all the time. He always alerts me. Sometimes too much. Like, he'll literally bark at a leaf if it blows off the tree or something. That leaf looks sketchy, you know. But he's literally like a guardian. So yeah, he's very much doing his job. And he always pops up as soon as I turn his camera on. He knows it and gets in between me and you because he's protecting me. This video I wanted to address. Now, I did address it in my other video about collecting graveyard dirt. But I wanted to do, it was just like a little snippet part of that lesson. I wanted to do a video today solely on the importance of covering your head when you're doing any kind of work. I know a lot of people see it in like voodoo and other ceremonial, ritual kind of things, but it's not just in that tradition. It's in a lot of traditions. The covering of the head is very important, and I went over this in another video, but like I said, I want this to be like its own video so I can title it this way and people will find it because it's very important. And I've seen other people in the very few groups that I'm left in on Facebook. I was in like 12 groups and I'm in like 4. I keep getting kicked out, but, you know, whatever, they're not supposed to have my knowledge. No skin off my teeth, it's their loss, in my opinion, you know. But, it's very important to cover your head. The covering of the head, when you're working with spirits, okay, because spirits can get in your head. They can attach themselves to you through your head. They can jump on your back. They can do all kinds of things. So when you're doing any kind of work with spirit, you should cover your head. But especially if you're doing baneful work, you definitely need to cover your head. And I've been doing some work this week, and I slept in white last night. Obviously, I slept with my head covering on, which I never do. But right now, my house is not clean, and I know that I have some new guests. I know for a fact that there are some spirits that came in here last night that have never been here before. So, and they're going to remain here until my work that I'm doing at this time is done. And I don't know them, so I'm protecting myself by covering my head. And I'm keeping it covered at all times, which is kind of an inconvenience, but it has to be done. It's very, very important. I can't stress how important this is enough. Now, it's also important not when you're just working, but when you're going to a place that you know is very spiritually active. If you're going to visit a botanica, if you're going to get a reading done, if you're going to a conjure shop, if you're going to a metaphysical fair that I went to the other day, I made sure my head was covered. If you're going to a cemetery, a funeral, this is why we have funeral hats. They're actually called funeral hats. It's like a real thing. Because when you go to a funeral, in the funeral home, in the cemetery, you should cover your head for protection. That's why we do that. But when you're, like I said in the other video, if you're going to visit the cemetery, even if you're just going for a visit, you know, cover your head. If you're going in a botanica, you know there's going to be spirits in there. You know there's going to be people in there that are having spiritual issues also. So you want to protect yourself from that by covering your head. If you go to a river, there are spirits in the river also, so cover your head. I usually cover mine when I go to the forest too. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Depends what forest I'm going to. It's just good practice to learn to cover your head. And the head covering color, generally it pertains to what you're doing. If you're working with a certain spirit, you want to use their color. But generally, I mean, it's like white. I always do white when I'm doing work. So now when I'm out, and it doesn't have to be a scarf. It doesn't have to be a scarf or a shawl or a wrap or like something on your head. You can wear a hat. Like I said, there's funeral hats. As long as you have your head covered with something, it's an extra layer of protection. So why not do it? It's so simple to put a hat on, or, you know, tie a bandana on your head or something. I will also, when I cover my head, I have little spray bottles in my bag that I carry with me at all time. I have two. One is Florida water. I carry it, you know, I get the big bottles of Florida water, but then I have this little, you know, I'll pour it in a little spray bottle, a little convenient size, and I carry that with me at all times. And the other is Palo Santo. Again, it comes in a big bottle, but I put it in a little spray bottle and I carry it in my bags at all time. These two items will serve you so much for cleansing and protection. Florida water is like, if y'all don't know about Florida water, please Google it. Please Google Florida water and learn the uses of Florida water because it is so versatile. But I always carry, if I leave the house and I don't have my head covered because I'm just running to the grocery store or like some shit, I always carry some kind of head covering in my car because I never know what I'm going to run into, or I might, you know, just decide I'm going to stop at this place or that place, and I might want to cover my head when I go in that place. When I cover my head, now this is my personal thing, like I said, layers of protection. When I cover my head, immediately after I cover my head, I take my little spray bottle of Florida water and I spray. I spray my head and I say something to myself like, let this water cleanse me, let the water run down and wash away, or let it run down and protect me, you know, perform a protective shield over me. You know, I will say stuff like this as I'm spraying the Florida water, and I usually follow the Florida water up with the Palo Santo. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But these are also, like, for example, I visit a place, like I said, I said this in the other video, but like I said, this needs to be, it's so important, it needs to be like its own video. I visit a place in the fall, and I'm there like every weekend, that's extremely active. It's very haunted. There's a lot of spirits in this place, and they're not all nice, so I always cover my head when I go to that place, but I didn't used to, because when I first started going there, I didn't know. Obviously, I didn't know how active this place was when I first started going there, and I actually had things follow me home from that place. But I would always, even if I didn't have a head covering on, I always had the Florida water with me before I go in that place now. I mean, every time before I go in there, I spray the Florida water. I make sure my head's always covered when I go in there. Same thing when I go in a Conjure shop or Botanica. I always spray the Florida water before I go in there. That's why I say it's good in your car. You know, if you pull up to a place that you know is active before you go in there, that's a good practice to just carry, you know, a little spray bottle of Florida water or Palo Santo in your bag, so you can just, like, quick do a shield on yourself before you enter that place. Now that covers head covering. There's a lot of reasons for it, which I could go through, like, the list of reasons, but it all boils down to basically protection. Covering your head is protection. Now, if you're like me, where spirits tend to follow you home from places, I have a practice I do when I come home, especially if I visited somewhere with heavy activity. When I enter my door, I enter it backwards. I walk backwards into my house, so I have my eye on what's behind me, and nothing can jump on my back and kind of ride it into my house through my protections, you know. I do that as well, but you don't have to do that unless you're someone like me that spirits follow them home. I know there are a couple people like me, especially, I seen a video the other day, someone was talking about, oh, it was Mama Spirit Tree, of course. Mama Spirit Tree is talking about she went to the crossroads, and when she came home, a spirit had followed her home from the crossroads and presented itself to her. And apparently it wasn't a very nice spirit. It kind of scared her. So, yeah, if you're someone like me, I don't know how many of us there are, that spirits follow you home from places, a good practice is to walk in your door backwards. To keep an eye. And I went through this in the collecting graveyard dirt. You always want to leave the cemetery backwards. You walk out backwards, so you keep your eye on the cemetery and nothing can jump on your back. These are just general good protection practices for anybody, but especially if spirits follow you home a lot. There's another thing I wanted to talk about. Every time I have, like, I get to talking about one thing and I totally forget what the other thing was. I don't know, but let me talk about this one. I really needed a wake-up call. And realize, guys, like Mama Spirit Tree says, I like say her shit all the time, and I'm sorry, Mama, that I'm like saying your shit, but it's just so good. Your shit's so good. I got it, and like it needs to reach a bigger audience, okay, honey? Now I forget what that was. I remember what it was. She says, as I minister to you, as I preach to you, I'm also ministering to myself. She says that a lot, and it's true. And I mean, I'm the same way. As I'm sitting here preaching to you guys, preaching, it's just, you know, a word. I'm also learning myself, because I go back and I have a thing, actually, when I do videos, I go back and I watch them a couple times because I'm always looking. Sometimes spirits will show up. Sometimes an orb or something will fly through, and I like catching them. So I'll go back and I'll watch it a couple times, and I'll keep my eye out for things. But I also rewatch them because sometimes we need to take our own advice. And like, I've done the videos on being humble, on not having an ego, and everything, and sometimes I'm not humble. I realize that I might have started getting a little bit of an ego, and I guess I want to publicly apologize about that. You can't let that happen, and it happens so easily you don't even know it's happening. That's why I did the videos on it. It's so important, and it was happening to me. So I'm going to try and be more educational in my videos and not so preachy. I'm trying real hard for the 3 Ds. Determination, discipline, and demand, and control. That's not a D, but that, I mean, it goes along the lines with discipline. These are the things I'm working on. I'm trying really hard, because I know this is something I must master, and we should all master it. It's a good advice for all of us. But like I said, like Mama says, as I minister to you, I'm ministering to myself. I go back and I watch my videos several times. And I went back today and, like, I watched the first video I ever made, and I was like, wow. I was in such a different place when I made that video. Like, I was very soft-spoken. you know, I was, at that point in time, like, I was being very humble, you know, and I realized as my videos progressed, as I watched them, I started not being so humble. I started having an ego, and you always have to remember, like I said, it's not you, it's your spirits. You cannot have an ego about it. You cannot not be humble. Always be humble. But then again, as I explained to my husband's very humble too. But there's times when he's not, and that's when it's called for. You have to know when to be humble and when not to be humble. There are points and times where you got to show people exactly what you can do and not be humble about it. But those times are few and far in between, and I realized I was getting a little bit of an ego. I was being very preachy, and that's not good. So I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to try and get back to the roots of what this channel was supposed to be about, and that is teaching. So today I'm teaching about head coverings, and I look like, I don't know, I put this one on. I have a lot of head coverings, a lot of scarves and stuff, but I put this one on while I was sleeping because it kind of elastic one, like it's a one piece, so I thought it would stay on my head better while I was sleeping, and I just woke up, so that's why this one's on. Yeah, I cannot stress the importance of covering your head. Even if you're just visiting like a palm reader or some kind of psychic reader or something like that, cover your head. Y'all, better safe than sorry, right? Good advice, common sense. So yeah, someone else said last night, a witch's work is never done, and it's so true. And I'm gonna say, there's such a fine line between calling yourself a witch, because when I was growing up, like, when some of us, the older ones were growing up, we grew up at a time where when you told people you were a witch, or people thought you were a witch, you were persecuted for it. I was picked on my whole life growing up, and I didn't even know what I was. You know, I knew I was different. I knew I wasn't like everybody else, but I didn't know what I was. But other people knew what I was. And like I said, if you're the real deal, you don't gotta flaunt it. You don't gotta flaunt it. Real deal do not showboat. They don't have to. It precedes you. Like, everybody just, they know it. You don't have to show it. A little rhyme there. Wasn't that cute? But yeah, when I was growing up, it wasn't cool to label yourself a witch. When I was young, I never called myself a witch. I never labeled myself a witch. And you gotta, again, and when you come out and call yourself a witch, it's kind of showboating. It's kind of, so there's a fine line between that too. When do you say it? When do you let people know what you are, and when you don't? Like I said, if you're real, you don't have to let them know, because they automatically know. And you still have witch hunters out there that will come after you and persecute you and hate you and wish death upon you and all kinds of stuff just for being who you are and what you are. And I look at it, really, I was born with it, like I said in other videos, and I know other people that were born this way. And when you're born this way, it's, now this is a bad analogy, okay, but it's the best analogy for people to understand what I'm saying. Okay, when you're born this way, it's like being born with a handicap or a disability. Like, you can't help it. Okay, it's just the way you're born. It's just the way you are. I definitely don't consider this a handicap or a disability. It's a bad analogy, but it's the way you're born. Just like if you're born with blue eyes, you can't help it. Your eyes are blue, you know. I can't help what I am. I was born this way. So it was not always a good thing. Now it's trendy. Now it's a fad to want to be a witch. To tell everyone you are one. And If you gotta tell everyone you are one, I don't know, man. Show it, don't flaunt it. You know? I don't know. But yeah, witch's work is never done. And I'm at the point right now where I don't even like saying I'm a witch, because I don't need to. But that's a good saying, a witch's work is never done. I got so much more work. I got so much shit going on right now, and I hate doing all this shit. And I haven't had to do anything negative in a long time. I haven't had to do baneful work in a long time, and I don't like doing it. I don't like having this energy in my space, and like I said, I know I have visitors right now that weren't here before I started doing this work, and they're here now, and I don't know who they are, so I'm protecting myself. My dog was going nuts last night. He was barking, like, at the kitchen, like, he was growling and barking crazy last night at something in there. So I know I have visitors here right now. And then, I mean, and this work is going to take, like, at least a week. I'm going to have to deal with this. I'm going to have to protect myself 24/7 till this is done. And then I have to do a banishing, get rid of the new spirits that have come in here, and I have to cleanse. I have to cleanse my whole house to get rid of this energy. Then I have to reinforcement, you know, with peaceful, tranquility type workings. And, like, it's like, it's never done. This is why I've said in previous videos, be sure, you know, don't just jump into shit. Be really sure, because just because you're doing this one thing, there's, like, cleanup, you know? You gotta clean up the mess afterwards, and that's more work. It's so much energy and time to put into something, and you gotta really know that it's worth it. Is it worth your time and your energy to do all this stuff? And it makes me mad when it's defensive, you know? This shouldn't even have had to have been done. It shouldn't even have had to happen. But people, you give them too much credit, you know? They should know better, and they don't, but... And before, now, and I want to say this too, go, get your head out of here. If, like my big saying is, reflect before you react. Is it really worth your time and energy? Now, if you have a good connection with your spirits and a good divination method with your spirits, always talk to your spirits before you throw out a hex or do any baneful work. Always talk to them. Is it the justified right thing? Are you thinking it through clearly? Is it worth your effort, time, and energy? Are they going to back you on it? Are they going to make sure it's carried out and carried out correctly? Always check with your spirits if you have a good connection and divination method with your spirits. I check with my spirits on everything before I do it. Especially when it comes to baneful work, malevolent type workings. I always check with them first. And, yeah, so you want to do that and make sure it's worth your time and energy. Cover your head, protect yourself, be prepared. Maintenance is very important. I did the video on maintenance the other day, and I was talking to a fellow practitioner about this the other night, the importance of maintenance. If you're doing weekly, if you're not doing daily maintenance, at least do like weekly maintenance on your protections, its layers, and like she said, it's better to do a little bit of weekly maintenance than try to clean up a huge mess when it happens, right? So you do that little bit of maintenance to stop the huge mess from like coming in, and it's so much easier to do the maintenance than to clean up this big huge mess. Forethought, you know. So that'll end this video. Hopefully I'm going to try to get back to the roots of what these videos were supposed to be about. So yeah, like, subscribe, and share.